I do have a lot of gripes with a lot of congressmen. I do. I don't feel like I'm being too hard on them, but there are few in Congress who actually are doing the heavy lifting. One of whom happens to be my congressman, Representative Brandon Gill, who is doing amazing work with specific regard to calling out the Somalian fraud and not letting all of these Democrats continue to sweep it under the rug. Joining me now is that Congressman, Brandon Gill. Welcome, my friend. It's been a long time. I really do mean what I say. I appreciate all of your great work holding all of these people accountable. And I want to get your reaction first to the DOJ finally serving these subpoenas to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, and Keith Ellison over there, the Attorney General, trying to hold them accountable for trying to stop, of course, ICE from detaining dangerous criminals.
Right. And thanks for having me on the show. And thank you for the kind words there.
Yeah.
This is a long time coming, and I'm thrilled to see the DOJ taking action here. You know, what we learned in the hearing that we had a couple of weeks ago, amongst other things, was that Governor Walz and his administration knew about this fraud. They were aware it was going on and deliberately looked the other way because they knew that the Somali community voted as a bloc. They were historically a Democrat voting bloc, and they didn't want to mess up their political standing with that community. And the deal, the sort of Faustian bargain that the Walz administration made was you can defraud taxpayers, you can defraud these very generous welfare programs, and we're going to look the other way, and we expect you to vote for us in exchange. And I think that is flagrantly corrupt, and I'm glad the DOJ is taking action here.
Yeah, I hope that they extend all of these inquiries and subpoenas and such to Ilhan Omar, because if it's very strange, Representative Gill, it's very strange when you start looking into, she seems to know all of these people over in Minneapolis who happen to be involved in all of this Somalian fraud. She's like besties with all of them. So I hope that they continue to probe that. But we've been trying to get you on for a couple weeks now. I know we've been going back and forth with your schedule. You're a busy guy, and I get that. But I wanted to share this clip of you grilling former special counsel at the U.S. Department of Justice, Brendan Ballou. Watch.
Yes, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference.
I don't understand what they don't get. Again, you're using the term Minnesota native. It's like, guy, if they're going to come into our country and be a drain on our economy, on all of our welfare programs, they shouldn't be here. It's really that simple.
You know, that's exactly right. And what he was trying to do was obfuscate the fact that this is fraud committed predominantly by Somali immigrants to the United States. Just remember that in 1990, there were virtually no Somalis in the United States at all. In other words, they're here as a result of our immigration policies, which is why I think that this is an immigration issue at its root. But that's what he wanted to step away from. He cited some very bogus statistics. I don't know where he got them from because they're not true, that most of those Somalis who are engaged in this or who are in Minnesota were actually born in the United States. That's not true. The reality is that most of them were born in Somalia. Mm-hmm. And what we know from this fraud, again, I would be okay going after fraud. We ought to go after fraud wherever it is, no matter what community is engaged in it, whether it's somebody who was born in the United States, born somewhere else. I don't care what race you are, what religion, but the reality is that this fraud was predominantly committed by Somali immigrants and Somalis who we very generously allowed to come into the country. And that's what I was trying to get there. Yep. The reality is these Somalis are not assimilating into American culture. And you can see that on the welfare statistics that I was citing. It's over 80% of Somalis in the United States, or in Minnesota, excuse me, are on welfare. That is substantially higher than for native-born American citizens. Which is a whole lot lower. But the most damning fact, I think, is that even after being in the United States for 10 years or longer, the percentage of Somalis in Minnesota who are on welfare is 78%. In other words, they're not coming here to live the American dream. They're not coming here to be productive members of society. They're coming here to get free stuff, and they're getting free stuff from Democrats who are trying to use that to buy off their votes.
And you're exactly right. And then on top of that, to add insult to injury, you have people like your colleague, Ilhan Omar, going out there and saying the USGD states, which, by the way, I don't think she understands the S in US already stands for states. So she's just saying United States. But aside from that, to add to your point, she just shows such disregard and disdain for the country that brought her here from her war-torn country, gave her all of this. She's risen to the level of congresswoman, and she still has the audacity to turn around and slap us in the face for providing her all of that opportunity.
That's exactly right. I mean, Somalia is a failed state. It's an incredibly corrupt place to be. It's incredibly violent.
Yeah.
And we should expect whenever you import tens of thousands of people from a part of the globe where corruption is the norm, where the norm of the people in that country to deal with the government there is to try and defraud the government, isn't to be a sort of a productive member of society or to engage in a social contract with their other fellow citizens and try to sort of lift the country up. It is to get as much as you can. And whenever you bring those people into the United States, you should expect that behavior to continue. And that's exactly what happened. But it's frankly just incomprehensibly disgusting the way Ilhan Omar talks about our country, about the country that has given her so many opportunities and have given so many Americans so many opportunities. All she has is disdain and contempt, not only for our country and our founding values, but for fellow citizens.
Yeah. Brandon, can you do me a favor? I do want to ask you some more questions, but on the topic of Ilhan Omar, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to get the message to her that since America is so bad, I will personally fund a one-way ticket back to Somalia. I will pay for it. She doesn't even have to pay. I will give her this parting gift. She can go back to Somalia with all of her buddies, and she can just live there, actually, since she hates this country so much. If you could just get her that message.
Well, the president has said that self-deportation flights are free, so she's welcome to take one.
Yeah, she can just, what is it, CBP Home? She can just download the app and hey, it's on us, So you actually joined the Sharia-Free America Caucus. Tell me more about I didn't even realize that this was a thing. I'm so happy that it is, because I'm sure your constituents here in the state of Texas especially are very, very concerned with all of this Islam creeping in, with all of these, epic cities, the all Islamic compound. I mean, this is really, really scary stuff that is happening here in this country. So tell me more about this caucus.
Well, this caucus is, first of all, a recognition that the mass importation of Islam into the United States is a serious problem. And I do hear from constituents all the time who are saying, I don't want to be woken up every morning at 5 a.m. hearing a Muslim call to prayer in my rural home in North Texas. That's not the country that I grew up in. That's not the country that I live in now. And I don't want to see my local community fundamentally transformed because of mass Islamic migration. But it's also furthermore a recognition that Islam as a political ideology is fundamentally incompatible with the United States, with our culture, with our governing framework. And we have to recognize that we enjoy certain freedoms and values and opportunities in the United States. And those freedoms and values and opportunities rest on top of a cultural foundation that we need to preserve.
Yeah.
Whenever you look at the incompatibilities, look at the United States governing framework. We have certain ideas about freedom of speech that Islam as a political ideology doesn't agree with. We don't have the same conception of freedom of speech. We don't have the same conception of freedom of religion. We don't have the same conception of separation of church or mosque and state that the Islamic world does. And what this caucus is doing, it's fundamentally a recognition that we need to take that mass Islamic migration very seriously. And in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many of my colleagues who are in that caucus, we need to end mass Islamic migration. It is transforming Western Europe. It's transformed London and Paris for the worse. And the working class people of those countries are the ones who are bearing the brunt of that. We don't want that to happen in the United States.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's really nice to see some of you guys standing up. It's like, okay, guys, the UK, they're doing the experiment for us. They're literally doing it for us. We don't need to do this and follow in their footsteps. We see what's happening. It's not going to end well. And I appreciate all of your great work on that because as I know, I'm sure you are getting this as well. They get very violent very quickly and very aggressive when you go after what they are doing to this country. So it comes with all sorts of fun death threats and stuff that I'm sure that you also experience. So I appreciate all of that. Well, I wanted to ask before I let you go. Over the weekend, obviously, I'm sure you saw Don Lemon and a bunch of radical leftists stormed a church service in Minneapolis, traumatized the children there, traumatized all of the congregants. Should they be charged with the FACE Act and thrown in prison?
Absolutely, they should. You know, the FACE Act has been weaponized against conservatives and Christians and pro-life activists for decades now. And we've been very firm against that. I've actually co-sponsored a bill that would abolish the FACE Act, that would repeal it. But as long as that law is on the books, it ought to be used equally against rioters and protesters who are barging into churches to disrupt worship services. I mean, can you think of something that is more un-American than harassing somebody while they're trying to praise God? You know, for a long time in the West, we had an idea that whenever you were in a church service, you were in a sanctuary, you were somewhere that you could not be harassed, that you shouldn't be harassed, where hopefully that type of political activism would be checked at the door, where somebody could go and worship in peace. And that's something that the left fundamentally disagrees with us on. They have just nothing but raw, unadulterated contempt for the Christian faith. And this is just another example of that.
Yeah. And instead, they want to continue protecting actual criminals. Like it's it's actually incredible to see how far that party has fallen. Representative Brandon Gill, I appreciate you, all of your great work. And next time you're back in town, I hope to see you soon. Tell Danielle I said hi.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Talk soon. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.